Hello everyone, my name is Mayuresh Joshi from Office365nodes.com. In today's video, we will see how we can get only the modified columns using Power Automate. For example, you have a SharePoint list with lot of columns and you want to find out only those columns which have been updated by the end user. So for example, we have a SharePoint list as employee details, and if someone updated the full name and age, I should get notified about these two columns. Or we can also say, using this tutorial you will be able to find only the columns and what the values have been updated. So without further delay, let's get started. Here is my employee details list where I have three columns: title, full name and age. I'm going to update the full name and age, and the final outcome will be I'll receive an email with only these two columns updated. In case if I update only one column, that is full name, I should get notified about that column only. So let's see how we can achieve this using Power Automate. I will create one flow where the trigger would be automated cloud flow. Let's give the name as list changes, and we will use the trigger point as SharePoint, and that too when an item is modified. So let's search for that. So I'll use this when an item or file is modified. I have also written a step-by-step article on my blog where I will provide the link of this article in the comment section below. So the first step is the SharePoint list, which we have already created. The second step would be a Power Automate trigger, which we have already defined, which will be the when an item is modified. The next step is we will get the item changes using the get changes property. The get changes function. So let me add a new step, and that step would be get changes. So here is the get changes for an item or a file. Let's use that. Okay, let's give the SharePoint site URL here in the property. So the site address I'm not able to find, so I'll give it directly. The list name would be employee details. Same I will use here. The library would be employee details. The list would be employee details, and the ID would be the trigger point ID. This one. Now we need to put some value over here. So what is this? The scenes, that means from which version you want to get the changes. Now for example, let me show you what is the version number over here. So the version number here is 14. This is the latest version. Now if I update some value in this item, the version will get changed to 15. So we want the changes from version 14 to 15. So we have to put the scenes 14. Now how to get the 14 version here? So if I update the item, the version will be 15, which I can capture from this place, but we want 14, so we will use a subtract by 1. So let me use the expression over here. I'll use subtract function. Now subtract requires a first number to be integer, so I'll use the integer, and in that integer we will use the version number. So if I scroll over here, I can get the version number, this one, but this version number is 15, so I will minus 1 from this version number. So click on OK, and here we go. So we will get the changes. Now we will use this output of this function in the next steps, but for now let's see what is the next step. Now we want to also get the previous version details. Okay, so this function only provide you what columns have been changed, but if we want to know what exact values have been changed, we have to make a HTTP request to the SharePoint. So let's do that. I'll make a HTTP request to the SharePoint. Okay, the SharePoint site address, the method would be get, and the URI. So URI I have provided the here underscore API web lists get by title. Here is the list name. Now only two values we need to change, which is ID and previous version. So let me copy this entire string. I'll paste it here. Okay, first let me fix this error. Okay, now we need to provide the ID over here. So ID would be, we already have the ID, this one. So keep your focus here and click on ID. Then we also need the previous version. Now how to get the previous version? We already did that from here. So if you see, we need the version ID basically, not the version number. So for example, in SharePoint, each version has its version label and version ID. So this is version label, but we need the version ID in this API call. So how to get the version ID? To get that, let's first do small testing, kind of testing. So let me add one compose action. This is just for testing purpose. And in compose action, I'll put the ID response of this action. So get changes, and I'll use the body. This is the output of get changes from an item or a file. That means this function. So let's save this and let's trigger this Power Automate once. So to trigger the Power Automate, we'll just update this item. So I'll edit this. I'll change from Mayuresh Zoshi to Mayuresh D Zoshi and age 28 to 29. I'll save this. So let's allow some time for this flow to get triggered. Okay, you can see the flow is triggered. So let's open that flow. And in the compose action, you can see we get the version ID and version label. So we need this version ID. So just copy this scenes version ID. Let's edit this again. Now to get the version ID, we will just use this scenes version number, but we don't need the version label. So if you hover over this, you can see it's body slash scenes version label. We don't need this. We need version ID. So we have already copied one string, one property. So that property was scenes version ID. So instead of this, I'll control X, control V, and instead of this label, we'll use version ID. And then copy this formula and paste it directly over here so that we'll get the version ID. I'll write this in expression, keep the focus here and click on OK. Okay, that's it. Now we don't require this one. Okay, so to add the headers, we need to use this these headers, which is accept is equal to application slash JSON. And OData is no metadata. That means it will give us the minimal response. Perfect. Okay, before testing, let me add one more compose over here just for testing purpose, because I wanted to show you, or not needed. I'll show you directly from the output of this action. So let's test this. And here you can see that the flow has been triggered successfully. I wanted to show you that the output of these two actions. So if you expand the second action, which was get changes, here you can see we will get all the columns which have been whether if it's a false, that means it has not been changed, and if it is true, that means it is changed. So if you see here, the full name, the value is true, that means it is changed. Also the age is changed, and obviously the modified column, which is out of box column, which will also get changed. Apart from these three columns, you don't see any of the true value here. Also the send HTTP request, this will provide us what values have been changed. So if you see here, initially the value was, if I go bit down, yes, so this is the old value, which was Mayuresh Joshi, and age was 28. So now this is fine. So let's proceed to the next step. Now we need to parse that output. So we will need to copy the payload. So let me just open this output and copy from the body section. So copy this thing. Now just edit it and add an action as parse JSON. Now use the content as output of this send HTTP request, and schema would be generate from sample. Click on done. Okay, so once the JSON is parsed, we can add a filter on that JSON so that we will get to know what values have been changed. So to do that, we can make use of the filter function, and we will split the output of those properties. Actually, okay, let's first add a new step, and I'll show you. Let me add a compose function over here just for the testing purpose, and I will use the output of get changes. So if I use get changes output, yeah, this body, and if I test it now, yes, you can see in the compose we will get this section column has changed. So this will give us the array where we will get to know that which columns have been changed. So full name and age. So we will use this column has changed property. So if you see here, body slash column has changed, and we will split that string, and we will filter that array where the string would be true. So this string will be true. So let me edit this. I'll delete this one, and we will use a function filter array. So filter array we will use just to extract only the columns which have been changed. So in the filter we will use the expression as split string, and in string we will use the output of get changes for a file, and there we will use the expression as body slash has column changed. So I have given the formula over here, so let me use that. Okay, then here we'll use the expression as item, and which contains string as true. Okay, So the expression seems to be invalid. Okay, it's correct now. So let's see what is the output we will get. So if I test this now, I should get the output of this filter array as only 2 columns. The flow is running. Okay, so this was the input. That means the has column changed object, and from this object we need to get only the values which contains true. So we got the output over here. Okay, now we need to generate the array of these changed columns. So we'll initialize one array variable. Let's give it name as var columns changed. We'll use it as array, and now we will loop over this output, the output that we got from this filter array. So to loop the changes, we will use apply to each function. In the apply to each, the body would be output of this filter array, and we will append to array variable. Now in the array variable, we will use the array which we defined over here, and the value would be so we'll use this syntax, like we will add all the 3 columns, that means the column name, what was the previous value, and what is the current value. So the first column would be column name, so that would be the JSON of item. Then put a comma, then second column will be old value. So old value, that means the value that we need to get from this this function send HTTP request. So we need to, that's why we use this parse JSON. In the parse JSON, if you remember, we pass this send HTTP request. So from this parse JSON output, we need to get the old value. So to get the old value, we will use the parse JSON and the output. So the body of the parse JSON is, where I'm not able to find parse, yeah, here it is. So I'll use the parse JSON body, but we don't need to, we don't need the entire body, right? So we'll just make some changes. So we need the body, and its which value we need, this question mark JSON of item. So this will basically give us the column name JSON of item. So we need the only that column value, that's why we are using this syntax, question mark JSON item. So let's use this one. Then the next column would be new value. So new value will come from the output, that is the when an item is modified. So to get that, we can directly use the trigger body and its output. So trigger body, we can get it from here, get this one, when an item or file is modified. So here we have the body, but we don't need the entire body, so I'll again cut this. Let's paste it here. We don't need this one, and we need the only that column value. So this is the syntax. I'll copy this. Let's paste it here in the expression. Click on OK. Okay, so our JSON array variable is ready. Now we need to create the HTML table. For that, we will use create HTML table action. Create HTML table. Here we use that array variable where columns changed. We'll use the columns as automatic. And now we can also use the styling to style that section. So we can add this HTML table in the email body. So let's do that as well. Send email. I'll give my name for now. Subject item changes. Here in the body section I can use the create HTML table, but I need to style this as well, so we can style it. For now you can apply styling whatever style you want. So let me keep it for now as is. So I'll now save this, or let's directly test it. Now I should receive an email. The flow is running. Okay, we can see here. Okay, this is the output. So let's wait for the email. Yeah, email is there, and you can see these are the columns, like full name is changed, age is changed, old value is 28, new value is 29, old value was Mayuresh Joshi, new value is Mayuresh D Joshi, and this modified column. So in this way we can achieve this requirement, like how to get the only updated columns and how to send an email to get notified about what changes have been made to that SharePoint list item. I hope you have liked this video. If so, please like and subscribe to our channel to get similar kind of videos in future. I will also provide a link of my blog article in the video description. If you have any questions or queries, please let me know in the comment section. And finally, thanks for watching.